Thank you for joining us today on Synthesis Workshop. In today's Research Spotlight episode, we're joined by Sebastian Gisbertz. Sebastian studied chemistry at RWTH Aachen University in Germany, where he obtained his bachelor's degree in 2015 and his master's degree in 2018, with a specialization in catalysis and synthetic methods. During his studies, he stayed 4 months at Covestro AG to do a research internship in 2017. In the same year, he also did a short research stay focusing on ruthenium chemistry in the group of Professor Hardiger in Auckland, New Zealand. In July 2018, he moved to the Max Planck Institute of Colloids and Interfaces as a PhD candidate and IMPRS scholar under the supervision of Professor Seeberger and Professor Pieber. His research interests include the use of heterogeneous materials as Photoredox catalysts in organic reactions, with a strong focus on carbon heteroatom coupling reactions. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Sebastian. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi everyone out there, and thank you Matthew for inviting me here and your kind introduction. I will talk about our findings in dual Photoredox nickel-catalyzed CN cross-couplings and more precisely, which difficulties we faced and how we solved them. It is generally known that aryl amines are core structures in many biological active compounds and key building blocks of many active pharmaceutical ingredients. Therefore, it is important to have reliable and efficient synthetic methods to form these structures. The most common and widely applied method in academia and industry is a so-called Buchwald-Hardwick amination. This method is a palladium-catalyzed cross-coupling of aryl halides with amines. A main drawback of this methodology, besides the often required harsh conditions, is the low abundancy of palladium in the Earth's crust, and the therefore increased price and low sustainability of the cross-coupling. The most obvious alternative to palladium is nickel. It lays above palladium in the periodic table, and that's why it shows similar electronical properties. As nickel is much more abundant in the Earth's crust, it's cheaper and more sustainable to use this metal. For nickel, different from palladium, the rate-limiting step is the reductive elimination of the product. Hillhouse and co-workers investigated that nickel-2 amine complexes are thermodynamically stable, and that's why it's hard to form the desired aryl amine, if possible at all. Different approaches to destabilize the nickel-2 amine complex were developed to overcome this issue. One way which was developed is the classical approach in transition metal catalysis by applying nickel design for sophisticated ancillary ligands. Even if several protocols were developed over the last 2 decades, most of them require harsh conditions, and this is lowering the substrate scope. An elegant way to surpass or overcome this problem was reached by the combination of Photoredox catalysis and nickel catalysis. Nickel-2 is either destabilized via oxidation state modulation by single electron transfer or via excitation by an energy transfer process. A similar approach is the merging of nickel with electrochemistry. Here the nickel amine complex is also destabilized by oxidation state modulation. Due to the mild conditions which are applied for both methods, both functional group tolerance were evaluated, but what can be observed that generally low yields were reported for electron-rich aryl halides. My group focuses on Photoredox catalysis, and we are interested to solve the problem of the low yields for electron-rich aryl halides using dual nickel Photoredox catalysis. The basic principle here is that the photocatalyst can be quenched in 2 different ways. Either by a reductive quenching cycle, in which the photocatalyst is reduced and a donor is oxidized. The reduced photocatalyst then reduces an acceptor and is restored in its ground state. The opposite way is happening in the oxidative quenching cycle. Normally, Photoredox catalysis is conducted with homogeneous noble metal complexes or organic dyes. Even though they are very effective, they suffer from several drawbacks. They are quite unstable under certain conditions, and the mostly expensive homogeneous catalysts are hard to recycle, if possible at all. A more stable and cheaper alternative are semiconductors. These heterogeneous materials can be easily recycled by filtration or centrifugation from the reaction solution and work in a similar way to their homogeneous counterparts. An electron is excited from the valence band to the conduction band, thereby generating an electron hole in the valence band and an excited electron in the conduction band. The electron hole can oxidize the donor and the excited electron is able to produce an acceptor. The semiconductor class our group was especially interested in when I entered the group are graphitic carbon nitrides. This has several reasons. This yellowish material absorbed in the visible light region, and as they are totally insoluble in any solvent, they can be easily recycled from the reaction solution. And one major advantage is also that depending on the precursors which are used and the synthesis conditions which are applied, the optical and electronical properties of these materials can be fine-tuned to the needs of a special reaction. In comparison to the iridium photocatalyst, which is used in the original protocol, there is also an important difference in the absorbance of the material, the so-called CNOAM, which we are using. The iridium catalyst mainly absorbs in the V region, but only a small part of the absorption is in the high energetic blue light region of the visible light. In comparison to that, CNOAM absorbs UV light, blue light, but also absorbs green light and even to a certain extent red light. So here the ability to use broader parts of the visible light range is given. This is also important for my project, which you will see later on. In the beginning, I screened all reaction parameters and ended up with the following protocol. 3 equivalents of the amine are used, as it's not only acting as substrate but also as base and ligand, so no additional base or ligand are needed. It works with cheap commercial nickel bromide trihydrate and the before mentioned CNOAM as photocatalyst. Here are some selected examples of the substrate scope. The protocol works for cyclic secondary amines, acyclic secondary amines, aromatic as well as aliphatic primary amines. Huge functional group tolerances for aryl bromide with strong electron restoring groups were shown, and even aryl bromide without strong electron restoring groups were coupled in good yields. But these results were really irreproducible. We were attaining good yields under these conditions only in rare cases. For the reaction with good yields, the reaction color remained yellowish. For the reaction with low yields, the color of the solution turned dark greenish to almost black. We analyzed the reaction solution and the heterogeneous photocatalyst after the reaction and found out that a significant amount of nickel in terms of nanoparticles or clusters were deposited onto the carbon nitride surface in case of the low yielding reactions. So the complete dual catalytic system was deactivated in these cases. A look into the literature of dual nickel Photoredox protocols using unligated nickel salts reveals the irreproducibility for electron-rich aryl halides. For example, for 4-bromoanisole, the base MTBD gave moderate yields using an iridium photocatalyst. When the amine-based DAPCO was used, no product formation was observed. But for the same base, an aryl halide, excellent yields were reported with a highly reduced phenoxyacin photocatalyst. In cases of a heterogeneous cadmium sulfide photocatalyst, no yields were observed for this substrate. For electrocatalytic nickel-catalyzed aryl amination, ligated nickel-2 salts were used. In the first protocol, in situ ligation of a nickel bromide lime with D-tetrbutylpyridine was applied, and they observed nickel black formation at the electrode for some substrates, which led to the catalyst deactivation. In an improved second protocol, they used a pre-ligated nickel-2 bipyridine complex, and thereby they increased the stability of the nickel catalyst, and more challenging substrate could be coupled. Furthermore, is in literature already known that nickel-2 salts can form nickel-0 nanoparticles in the presence of a photocatalyst and an amine as single electron donor. These nanoparticles can further agglomerate and form nickel black. Based on these findings, we hypothesized that the cross-coupling reaction competes with the catalyst deactivation due to nickel black formation. and this is the reason why limitation for certain substrates occur. Based on this, we thought about possible solutions looking at a simplified version of the reaction mechanism. The first step is the reduction of nickel-2 to a nickel-0 species in the presence of the photocatalyst, the amine, and under light illumination. After that, the oxidative addition of the aryl halide is happening. A nickel-2 species is formed, and this species is then destabilized by the excited species of the photocatalyst. Two different pathways are possible. One way, which was proposed in the original protocol with the rhodium photocatalyst, is a single electron transfer mechanism. In a more recent analysis by the group of Miyake, it was suggested that an energy transfer is more likely to happen based on their experimental data. But which pathway is correct for our system is anyway not important for our working hypothesis. To avoid the formation of nickel black and thereby deactivating the catalyst, we propose that it's necessary to keep the concentration of the nickel-0 species on a low level. This can be achieved when oxidative addition is as fast or faster than reductive elimination. For the challenging electron-rich aryl halides, oxidative addition is slow, and that's why reductive elimination is faster than oxidative addition and catalyst deactivation is happening. We had to find a way to make oxidative addition faster or as fast than reductive elimination. There are two different options, either slowing down reductive elimination or accelerating oxidative addition. Our first idea was now to use the special properties of the semiconductor material we are utilizing. This carbon nitride strongly absorbs blue light, but also to a minor extent low energetic green light. When blue light was used, as you already saw, we had reproducibility issues related to nickel-black derived catalyst deactivation. We switched to green light and high yields were attained and reproducible results for bromobenzene and 3-bromotoluene. But still, for the more electron-rich aryl bromides, we were facing reproducibility issues. So, if decreasing the speed of reductive elimination is not enough, we had to increase the oxidative addition step. This was achieved by using a higher concentration, and now even blue light could be used. We got high yields in a reproducible manner for all of the challenging substrate. By switching from white to green light, we were also able to improve the recyclability of the heterogeneous photocatalyst. The carbon nitride material became recyclable over 5 cycles without loss in efficiency. The 3 different methods were also tested on the coupling of aryl chlorides with amines. For the protocol using a low concentration and blue light irradiation, product formation stopped at a certain point. Switching to green light showed that after 1 week still product is formed, but the reaction is very slow, and even after 2 weeks not full conversion is reached. In case of the high concentration in blue light irradiation, the reaction goes to completion in 2 days and excellent yields were attained. With this, I would like to end the synthesis workshop and to thank Professor Seeberger for the opportunity to work at his department and to work on this project. I would like to thank the whole Catalysis group. I'm especially grateful to Dr. Bartholomeus Pieber for his great supervision and Susanna Reichauer for the collaboration in this project. Thank you, Matt, for the opportunity to present our work at your YouTube channel. I thank all the fundings which are supporting our research. And if you like this video, finally check out our publication and don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. Ciao!
Thank you very much for joining us for this research spotlight, and I hope you've enjoyed Sebastian's talk. Tune in next week for more exciting research. To support this initiative, help us out by subscribing and sharing with your colleagues. Follow us on Twitter to stay up to date, and see you all next time.